Help! Somebody call the police!
Mortally
Help
frightened,
me!
Tracy Edwards is running down the night streets of Milwaukee. He just escaped the clutches of a murderous weirdo who threatened to eat his heart. His left hand was still handcuffed. He saw a police car and rushed to it. Officers Robert Roth and Rolf Mueller listened to Tracy's story and shook their heads. It was so shocking, gruesome, and bizarre. It sounded more like a fabrication of a deranged mind. And this is what the man had to go through. At about 6 p.m. that day, Tracy and two of his friends were hanging out at the Grand Avenue Mall. They were approached by a tall blonde guy Tracy had already seen before. They'd said hi to each other a couple of times. The man introduced himself as a professional photographer and asked if Travis and his friends would be interested in doing a photo shoot with him. The pay would be nice, $100 each. While the three friends were on the fence about posing for the camera, the new acquaintance seemed a cool enough dude. If the photo shoot didn't work, they'd just hang out and have a good time. The guys went to a liquor store, stocked on drinks, and loaded the goods into a cab. Everybody wanted to change for the evening, so the guys split to reunite in a wee bit. Edwards stayed with the new acquaintance, while his friends left with a blonde's address scribbled down, promising to bring girls with them. The cab swung by Tracy's place for him to change as well and headed to the Oxford Apartments. Once they entered the apartment block, Tracy noticed a horrid stench that intensified as they went up the stairs. The blonde unlocked all 8 locks on his door and turned off the burglary alarms. The odor grew a few notches stronger. A sewer pipe had busted, the blonde explained. Tracy stepped inside and noticed a surveillance camera in the corner. Why the precautions? Bad neighborhood, the host shrugged. Right on the living room floor, there were boxes of hydrochloric acid. That's to clean bricks, said the owner, and dropped out of sight before re-emerging with refreshments, beer for himself and rum and coke for his new acquaintance. He'd also put a movie on. The Exorcist 3 theme was chiming. The two talked about the army, this and that, and the evening seemed fine. Tracy wasn't a drinker, so he only made a few social sips from his glass. He was getting a weird buzz on, which, due to his inexperience with alcohol, he considered normal. They started talking about exotic fish, and the host turned his guest's attention to the fish tank in the corner. When Tracy turned to look at it, the blonde handcuffed his left arm and pressed a large knife against his ribs.
I asked him what the problem was, that it's not necessary to do this,
What'd he say?
He told me at that point if I wouldn't do what he said, he would kill me,
No.
The blonde also told Tracy he'd killed before and enjoyed doing it. His words and actions were scary, but the man himself, his demeanor, turned just plain eerie.
It's like not the same person that we met at Grand Avenue Mall.
How does he different?
His face structure seemed different, his body structure is like it wasn't him anymore, It's like it was a totally different guy there.
Dragging Tracy by the handcuffs, the man led him to his bedroom. A large plastic barrel sat in the corner. It was apparent that the odor enveloping the whole building was coming from there. The blonde shifted his attention to the TV. Immersed in the movie, he started rocking back and forth, humming and chanting. It was spooky, but perfectly in line with the flick. Tracy didn't know it then, but The Exorcist 3 was his captor's favorite movie. Like the priest, the man could shift gears and enter a different mind frame. Like the priest, he felt alone and abandoned. Like the priest, he felt rotten and evil. But, very much unlike the priest, he did not resist his murderous urges. He'd already decided that this handsome black man would have to die. Tracy actually observed how his captor's excitement spiked whenever Karis appeared on the screen.
It appeared like it was like he wanted to mimic it or be like that part, being demonized or whatever in that nature.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
Yeah, like he wanted that type of movie, that part, certain parts of that part interested him, It was like he changed with it at times, then he would get more aggressive.
Probably, the tall blonde didn't know another detail linking him with the movie. Jason Miller, the actor who played Damien Karras, was an alcoholic, just like him. But alcohol meant more than relaxation to the blonde. He used it both to desensitize himself before the murders and to render his victims helpless, as the drinks he served his guests were laced with tranquilizers. Tracy didn't know, but his indifference to alcohol saved his life. A sip or two, and he'd be unconscious. During one of those exciting episodes, the blonde asked Tracy to lay on the carpet face down. He wanted to cuff his prisoner's hands behind his back. Tracy lay on the side instead, pleading with the man, repeating that he was his friend and that violence was unnecessary. The blonde put his ear to Tracy's chest. He listened for a minute and announced that he was going to eat that heart. At one point, the host showed Edwards a few photos of his previous victims, as an entomologist would boast his collection to a colleague. Whether or not Tracy had doubts before, it was the moment he realized if he didn't do something, he'd be dead, and soon. The whole time, he was doing his best to put the blonde freak at ease. The host continued talking about how he didn't want Tracy to leave and didn't want to be alone, and Tracy played along. Over and over again, Edwards repeated that he was his friend and was in no hurry to leave. The man appeared to be gay, frequently complimenting Tracy on how handsome he was, so he unbuttoned his shirt a bit. It was hot, and Tracy persuaded his captor to move to the living room. It smelled a bit better and had air conditioning. For hours they sat there, talking and drinking. From time to time, the blonde host would fall back into his rocking trance or would just sit silent and motionless altogether. Once he finished his beer, he asked Tracy to grab another can from the fridge.
You went to the refrigerator.
Right,
And you opened it.
right.
And what do you remember you seeing?
Skulls, hearts, things of that nature.
When the blonde was having one of those blank moments, Tracy asked if he could use the bathroom. The host didn't reply, but Tracy noticed the man wasn't holding on to the handcuff. He got up and punched the man, knocking him off balance. Tracy raced to the door, with his captor at his heels, armed with a knife. Edwards swung around and punched the pursuer in the groin. Later, he would say that it was as if God himself guided his hand. Of all the 8 locks, he miraculously picked the only one locked. The door swung open. The officers didn't take Tracy's story seriously. In fact, they simply didn't listen. A half-naked black man with a cuff on. For them, it was a giggling material more than anything. At the time, racial and sexual tolerance was ebbing in Milwaukee. Putting it bluntly, the officers' treatment of Tracy was nothing short of racist and homophobic. Even when the officers noticed the handcuffs, they didn't think much of it. Their key didn't work too, and they were very much ready to roll their way, but Tracy didn't back down. He kept pleading with them until one of the policemen finally caved in and followed Tracy back to the apartment block.
He stayed downstairs while he told me to go upstairs and tell the guy to take the handcuff off.
He what?
He told me to go upstairs and tell the guy to take the handcuffs off. Right.
So you went back to the apartment alone?
Right.
Unassisted.
Unassisted?
Unassisted, he was doing...
It's unimaginable what Tracy was feeling. Yet, the man must have had nerves of steel. Having endured over 5 hours in the apartment, he still had enough courage left to go up and confront the freak. The blonde opened the door. "Come in, and I'll take them off," he said, as if nothing had happened. Tracy ran downstairs and managed to drag Roth and Muller upstairs. The hospitable blonde let them in. Right away, Tracy pressured the officers to look for the knife he was threatened with, and, sure enough, there it was, under the bed. The host didn't offer any explanations, but he did say the key they were looking for was in the bedside dresser. He made a move to go fetch it, but Officer Muller told him to back off. Muller entered the bedroom and noticed an open drawer with photos inside. He looked closer, and his eyes bulged. Muller walked back to Roth with the pictures in his hand. "These are for real," he said. Roth instantly pinned the blonde to the ground and cuffed him. As if mimicking the last scene from The Exorcist III, the man turned his head to the policeman and said, "For what I did, I should be dead." One of the officers opened the fridge. "Oh my God, there's a goddamn head in here. He's one sick son of a," he yelled. It was too much. They called for backup. The man arrested that night was one Jeffrey Dahmer, a 31-year-old quiet chocolate factory worker. At home, however, he was cooking other meals altogether. The Criminal Investigation Bureau searched the apartment and came up with 4 severed heads in Dahmer's kitchen, 2 entire human skeletons, 7 human skulls, and various body parts, including severed and preserved sets of male genitalia. In addition, the 57-gallon drum contained 3 dismembered torsos dissolving in the acid solution. The case instantly went public. The brutality of the murders, the boldness of the killer, and the racial problems of the city, all of it created a powerful media whirlpool. Tracy Edwards survived the ordeal and was recognized as a hero who literally dragged the police up to the cannibal's apartment. He underestimated me. God sent me there to take care of the situation. Tracy sued the city's police department for not following up on earlier tips about Dahmer. After all, that could have prevented the other deaths and his own encounter with the cannibal. Edwards sought to be compensated with $5 million, but the suit was thrown out of Milwaukee court. He didn't participate in the class action suit that the families of Dahmer's victims filed against the killer. The families received about $500,000, but Edwards, the true hero of Dahmer's story, was left with PTS and nothing more. Apparently, Tracy was utterly broken by the whole experience. Before meeting Dahmer, he had brushes with the law and had been charged with the sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl, but in the following years, it went steadily downhill. Drug possession, theft, property damage, failure to pay child support, and bail jumping. Finally, in 2002, he found himself living on the streets. As if that wasn't enough, on July 26, 2011, just 4 days past the 20th anniversary of Dahmer's arrest, Tracy was booked for murder. He and his friend, Timothy Carr, had a heated argument with Johnny Jordan, another homeless man. A witness at a gas station just across the street saw the 3 fighting on a bridge over the Milwaukee River and reported the incident after Jordan was pushed over the railing and fell 20 feet to the river below. Reportedly, Carr jumped after the man in an attempt to save his life, but it was too late. The police never released the details of the case, but eventually, Tracy pled guilty and was sentenced to 1.5 years in prison and 2 years of extended supervision for aiding a felon. Carr got 4 years for recklessly endangering the victim. It's like Humpty Dumpty. It's like he was never able to put the pieces back together again. Could Tracy's life have turned out any different if Milwaukee officials had treated him better? Definitely. Could the police have caught Dahmer long before Tracy entered the picture? Oh yes. This blonde made history as one of the cruelest people who have ever walked the earth. Subscribe to our channel and follow the updates. We're going to tell you his story very soon.